Slavko, hi again. Good to see you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many of you, and thank you for coming tonight and for praying.
Whereabouts are you speaking from, Slavko?
I'm at the moment in Serbia, at the mountain called Zlatibor, which means something like golden pine. And we have here a university student camp, which is Christian Evangelistic Camp. It's organized by UCCF, Christian Union, which is called EUS in Serbia, IFES, International Fellowship of Evangelical Students. So we have 85 students at the camp. More than around 60 are Christians, believers, and around 20 are non-Christians. So as I said, partly for believers, partly evangelistic camp.
Yeah, fantastic.
So it's been busy here.
Does that mean, I mean, thanks for carving out the time to share your ministry with us. Does that mean you're away from family and church?
My wife is here with me.
Okay.
Children, they are grown up. Daughter is 28, son is 24, and both of them are at the moment at different student camp in Bosnia and Herzegovina, at our home country. So wife is with me, and children are at different Christian camps serving there.
And I mean, where is your family home when you're not speaking at Christian camps, and what's the sort of nature of your home church where you worship at regularly when you're home?
Yes. We live in capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Sarajevo, and we live there for almost 20 years. So 1st of September this year will be 20 years since we moved to Sarajevo to plant church in Sarajevo. 1st of September 2003, we arrived from our hometown, Mostar, famous by Old Bridge. Maybe some of you know.
Yes.
I was associate pastor in Mostar. And then 1st of September 2003, my wife, me, and our two little children, daughter was back then 7, son was 3. We moved to Sarajevo and started church. And so still our daughter and 2 of us, we live in Sarajevo. Son lives for last 5 years in Zagreb in Croatia. He studies electrotechnic, and he is also serving in his local church in Zagreb and also with student ministry in Zagreb. And you asked also about our local church. So it's part of Evangelical Church of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We planted it 2003, and we are still. I was pastor of that church till 4 years ago, and then I asked someone from the church to take pastor's position because I was involved a lot with Langham and with evangelism. Because beside preaching and training preachers and involvement with Langham, my passion is evangelism.
When did you first come across Langham? What was the connection there?
Yeah, that was 2008. So as I said, 2003, I moved to Sarajevo and planted church. So until 2008, I was for 5 years pastoring small church plant, preaching every Sunday. And prior to that, I was associate pastor in Mostar, which meant that I preached maybe once a month. And then 2008, I finished Bible school in Mostar, in my hometown. And I was at that time a student of Evangelical Theological Seminary in Croatia. But I was invited to Croatia to Langham Seminar in city of Čakovec, and I went there. And really what struck me at that Langham Seminar was that my eyes really opened to how poor my preaching was at that time. and how much space there is for improvement. And I really started seeing, even after the first seminar, when I returned, that there were few of us from Sarajevo, and we immediately started preaching club. And results and effects, is that correct English word? Results of that were really visible almost immediately. The quality of preaching just went up higher. People in the church enjoyed, we really enjoyed preaching club. And that's how it started in 2008.
Great. Can you put your finger on were the particular areas that, as a preaching club and as a personal experience, that you found the preaching courses really did make a difference? Is there any particular things that you can share with us that that changed as a result of the Langham Preaching clubs? Many here pray for those clubs. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your prayers. Most, if not at that time, I would say all preachers, church leaders, pastors in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the Balkan region, many were without much formal theological education. Churches were small, and often preacher or pastor was the person who is doing everything in the church, which means didn't really have much time. And often that was case for myself also. Preparation of the sermon would start quite late. You know, you are preaching on Sunday, sometimes you start working on sermon on Saturday. And I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the process that we recommend to go through when you are preparing sermon. But basically, many of the preachers, including myself back then, we would skip part of exegesis, of thinking what original author was talking to original audience, and would just start thinking, what does this text means to me and to church today? And that's, as today I know, that's a big problem, because then the danger is that we are not really faithful to the text. So I would say that was the main thing that struck me at that first seminar in 2008.
I mean, I think in the UK, for instance, in many of the places represented on in the group here in the screen, you know, we've got probably a lot of theological education between some of our church pastors. Doesn't necessarily make them good preachers, any of us, you know. It's how do you make that connection? Yeah, you're also something of an evangelist, really. I mean, you know, you're not just preaching in terms of discipleship and getting people engaged with the text. You're calling people to repentance and faith. And I guess that's, you know, with the 20 on your camp at the moment that don't yet know and love the Lord, that, you know, we can pray for that to change by the end of your time there. But how do you find that? Do you have many speaking engagements then? You know?
Yes, my ministry today mainly is in 3 directions, or has 3 parts. So one part of my ministry is Langham Preaching, and as you said, John, I'm now serving as a associate director for Europe and Caribbean. Before that, I was a regional coordinator for Southern Europe. Before that, I was movement coordinator for Bosnia and Herzegovina. And half of my time, so 2.5 days in a week, I serve with the Langham Preaching, but the other half of the time, I serve in evangelism. I started Association Good News in Bosnia and Herzegovina with the purpose to assist local churches and parachurch organizations in the region in organizing evangelistic event and training people for one-on-one evangelism and public evangelism. And also I'm part of the network called FOIR, which is Fellowship of Evangelists at Universities of Europe. And we, in cooperation with IFES, UCCF, we organize Mission Week and evangelistic events at different universities across Europe. So yeah, I have quite few engagements divided between Langham, between FOIR and the association. Good news, it keeps me quite busy.
I could believe. And not only that, but you're associate director to Mark Mennel, and Mark will be known to quite a few on the screen. And so I'm sure you instantly get all their sympathy for, you know, the kind of momentum and energy that's needed to look at that. So how does that Langham role then, if we can explore that just for a few moments? You've got all the speaking and the range of ministries, but what's happening in Langham in Bosnia Herzegovina, Serbia, you know, and what's your role in that?
Yes. So Langham, it's a great joy to work with Mark Mennel. He is not just my director and boss, he is also a very good friend of mine. And when I started working with Langham, first 2008, 2009, 2010, I was attending seminars in Croatia, 3 levels. And then at the first one, 2008, Jonathan Lamb was speaking, and then 2009 and 10, Mark Mennel was facilitating the seminar. And then we invited him and we invited Langham to come to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And then I was serving for 3 years as translator to Mark. And then after that, Langham was invited to start seminars in Macedonia. And Mark invited me to come with him and gave me to do a little bit of facilitation. And that's actually how everything started. And then when I joined the Langham team in all Europe, it was basically just Mark and me. And now with the years, our team grew. Now there are, I believe, seven of us in the team because our continental team covers Europe and Caribbean. So we have a regional coordinator for Caribbean, for Southern Europe, Western Europe. Mark himself is still covering Eastern Europe, and we are looking for a regional coordinator, but we also have a facilitator for preaching clubs and for training and facilitators. So team grew. I'm helping Mark a lot with administration of the team, of preaching clubs across the continent, and also I'm still facilitating events and the seminars. And yeah, another part of Langham ministry is that we have a memorandum of understanding with Evangelical Theological Seminary in Osijek in Croatia, and Langham Preaching is, I'm not sure if this is now correct in English, but holding cathedra. Does that mean anything? So Langham Preaching is actually doing homiletics at the Evangelical Theological Seminary, and I'm involved with that as well.
Wow. Can you give us just an idea of the scope and the scale and maybe the geographical area that, you know, what's actually happening? How many are on courses at the moment? How many do you expect usually, and how do those run? How many at once?
Can you just clarify, what are you asking me? Are you asking about theologial seminary in Croatia, or are you asking about work in Europe?
I'm asking about Langham Preaching in terms of your, so wherever it goes into either of those responsibilities, but mainly about the Langham Preaching program. Yeah.
In Europe.
In Europe. Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. I should come better prepared for that question because I don't know exact number of the countries. But let me now say from the top of my head that we have established work in, I would say, 20 to 25 countries in the Europe. I could easily pull up that information, but I don't have it at my hands. At the moment, we have, I know more for the region, for Southern Europe, that
Okay.
I was regional coordinator till last year. So in Southern Europe, we have established work in Slovenia, in Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Macedonia, Greece, Albania, Turkey. I think that's it of Southern Europe. And we started in Montenegro just before COVID. So we had level 1, then COVID started and postponed everything. With some preaching clubs, seminars, when COVID started, we moved to online, to Zoom meetings. In Montenegro, it didn't really work. So now we are looking to restart of Montenegro. And we are in conversations with some leaders and churches in Kosovo. So we are hoping to start there as well. Then if we are speaking about Eastern Europe, there is very well established work in Romania with several dozen of preaching clubs. There is work in Hungary, Ukraine, unfortunately also experiencing difficulties because of this terrible war that's happening there. But even during the war, Mark Mennel managed to have some Zoom trainings with Ukrainians. In Western Europe, we have work in Austria. Spain also has very developed work. Then France, Switzerland. Yeah, so it's basically all over the
extraordinary scope and scale. And in each of those countries at this instant in time in Europe, are we running, most people will know we run a 3-stage preaching course and then put people into preaching clubs as a result. I mean, can you give us an overview or in detail on one country as to how many people go through that program at all? Roughly, that's
in all countries we have preaching clubs. In some we have maybe only one, in some we have several. I will tell you about my country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. So Bosnia and Herzegovina is a small country. We have only up to 3.5 million population, just over 3 million population, but it's one of the least evangelized countries in the Europe still. We don't have many churches. There are different reasons. I don't think that we have now time to go there, but please pray for revival in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But in Bosnia and Herzegovina, since we started, I believe that was 13 years ago, with Langham Seminar, we had several cycles. So first, I think twice we had cycle of all 3 levels for pastors, preachers, and I would say that perhaps at least 60-70% of pastors and preachers in the country. So that's 2/3 of the pastors went through seminar. But then we have 2 Bible schools in Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of Evangelical Church, the other one of the Baptist Church. And in the program of both Bible schools for homiletics is Langham Preaching seminars. So many people in Bosnia went through Langham Preaching seminars, and at the moment we have, I think, 5 preaching clubs. One is online preaching club, and that one online preaching club is for ladies. One sister got put on her heart to start online preaching club for ladies. My wife is part of that one too, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And then 4 local churches are running preaching club.
And what sort of numbers are involved in a preaching club then in Bosnia Herzegovina?
Yeah, we believe that under 10 people is good size. If it is more than 10, then it's better to multiply into 2 clubs. So I would say it would be between 4 and 8 in average.
Now,
and in some countries, it doesn't start that quick. And that I mentioned when we went from Sarajevo 2008 to Croatia to first level 1, as soon as we came back, we started preaching club. But for example, in Slovenia, I was involved with first cycle, so first 3 levels, and was really trying hard to encourage brothers there to start preaching clubs, and just it didn't work. And then at the end, after the level 3, at the end of cycle, they finally got the vision, idea, got zeal, I don't know, but started preaching 2 preaching clubs, I believe. And now it's going very well.
Fantastic. I mean, it's going to be a privilege to pray for that work. And I just, I can sense John Stott sort of looking down and seeing this vision just expanded so much, even in those areas of Europe. You mentioned the Ukraine at the moment, and just before we sort of go off to pray, I mean, I just wonder, tell us a little bit about the situation in terms of support or whatever for Ukraine, and what you're hearing locally and Europe-wise.
Yes. I mentioned earlier that we still don't have a regional coordinator for Eastern Europe, and that our director, Mark Menel, is covering that position. And he was and is still very involved with the work in Ukraine, and close friends with many leaders and preachers there. He was going there doing live seminars, and then when war started, it really struck all of us, and we all pray for brothers and sisters there. But Mark did more than that. He is in direct contact with many of them. He was involved in practical ways of helping brothers and sisters there. And also, I think that I mentioned that already, that he runs several online Zoom events for Ukrainian brothers and sisters. So yeah, please keep praying for Ukraine.
We will indeed. And as I say, in a moment, we'll go into groups. And again, if people just want to just share where they're speaking from and what their connection with Langham is, just by way of introduction, as we start those small prayer groups, that would be good. And we'd see people back together just before Q2. Is there anything on your heart just before we divide from the sort of preaching topics as you thought of them? Is there any area that you just want to emphasize that we haven't had the chance to talk about before we go into the groups?
You are asking me?
I am asking you, yes.
Yes. Well, I just want to thank you for supporting Langham Preaching. It's very important work. That's why I joined Langham team. It's very important that people in the churches are properly fed on the God's word. And thank you for supporting Langham Preaching, for praying, and may God bless you.